See, I didn't stay on practicing now, what next?
I will open the public hearing. Warrant articles. Yes. So first thing we do is go through the budget.
There are copies on the chair.
You ready to get a copy of the budget?
Real up front on the chair.
So you're on go?
I thought you were looking around for budgets.
I was looking around for people who needed them.
Thanks, Ellen.
Ready to be the one.
We haven't quite,
The budget.
So Kevin will take us through the numbers, and if anyone has questions, comments as we're going through them, clarity on anything, raise your hand. Do our best.
All right, so I will direct you to the cover sheet. So what you have is the overall budget. As you can see, the overall budget is $2,724,690. Shows a total dollar increase of $117,439 once you reduce the grants. So what makes up those increases and decreases? Still staying on that first page, you'll see salaries, any performance increases, and there was an increase of a half-time aide in that as well. Okay, and that's as a result of the programming needs for next year. So that comes to $31,000 of salary increases. The next line down, $41,827 increase to health insurance. Part of that is that the aide position carries some different benefits, some changes to status within the year as far as going from a single person to two-person to family, and you're also budgeting for 2 new bus drivers. So we aren't sure exactly what their health benefits will be, so we benefit those at the higher end. And it also includes a 7.91% increase to the health insurance premiums. And then you'll see the other statutory benefits there. So the total salaries and benefits increase is $79,928. If you flip the page, we get into some of the special education costs. And those are based upon the needs of the students and IEP driven. And you'll see some of the lines have increased and decreased, but overall, there's an increase of $1,600 there. If there are questions at any point, please raise your hand and we'll try to get those before we go line by line. You'll see your tuition lines. So you'll see your middle school tuition. Those are your 7th and 8th grade students at Josiah Bartlett School. There's an increase of 2 students in the budget for next year. You'll see high school tuition is actually down $5,942, and it's actually 0.7 students more than there were previously. But as a result of the tuition contracts, it's a decrease of $5,900. You'll see that the bond and the maintenance trust fund, those both reduce. You'll continue to see the share of the high school bond reduce for the next 10 years. So the tuition itself is increased by $29,285. You get to the maintenance pieces.
On tuition, I'm sorry.
Yep.
When do you renegotiate, or do you negotiate both Bartlett and Kennett?
So on the warrant article and we'll get to that, the tuition contract for 7th and 8th grade students is due to expire in 2020. So right now, your 7th and 8th graders are committed to going to Bartlett for the following year. On the warrant is an article that the board has recommended to extend that another 3 years. So that would be 2021, 2022, and 2023. So that would be discussed a little bit later on. The high school tuition contracts don't expire until 2027. At 2024, the sending towns have to declare whether they would like to renew or not at that point. Okay, so that's 2024.
But they're already committed to 2027,
That's correct.
and that would go on for another 10, 8 years?
After that, no, we don't know.
It's talking co-ops and stuff of all sorts.
Yeah,
That's the negotiation.
That's correct. And if I can digress just for a second, there's a study committee going on right now at the SAU 9 level, in which they're open meetings, but the representation from different school boards, and I know Jessica Delgado sits on that committee, and we've had one meeting just from an attorney talking about all the different governance pieces, and then we'll continue to explore the tuition contracts and the variables that go in that. And that will continue to go for the next 4 or 5 months, and a report will be pushed out to SAU 9. But as we get further on, you'll be hearing more about that committee as well.
And Kevin, if I can just jump in, I know there was talk at the last meeting about citizens who wanted, if you wanted to join, I think that's welcome and invited. I know some names were tossed about.
Yes, and I give you out some contact information. And we can go from there. So that's tuition. Any other questions on tuition? So under maintenance, you'll see that's actually down $4,374. You had some projects over the past couple of years that you had some driveway seal coating that you had put in some money. Within this budget includes $6,000 in the operating budget toward the siding of the Whitney Center. So that's in the operating budget. If you finish that page and go on to the next page, these are all the other pieces moving in. And you'll see some ups and downs. Again, these are just summary increases and decreases. You'll see some reductions to different positions, some increases. I don't know if you have any specific line questions or why things have gone up. But overall, that's another $11,000 increase, which makes up the $117,439 increase to the operating budget as recommended by the Jackson School Board. You can get to the line-by-line pieces, and those are numbered at the bottom of the page. So page 1, what you'll see is the 1100, the regular education. These are all your salaries, health, dental, statutory benefits. And you'll see that at the bottom. If you flip the page to page 2, and again, if I'm going too fast, please let me know.
If anyone has any questions on this particular item, jump in. You can also go back and give us a.
So at the top of page 2, this is where you'll see supplies, materials. You'll also see those tuition lines at the very top, the middle school, the high school, the bond payments. You'll see the increases and decreases. And then you'll see some of the other supplies and equipment, technology. Regular education budget. Then you get to, at the bottom part, special education services.
Yes, they're fine. Special education, is that done right here in our school, or is it something that has to, someone that has to go to a specialty?
I can defer to.
It's in school?
You have a special ed teacher who's part-time, and we have a speech pathologist, occupational therapist who come in as needed. You have a preschool age student who may be off-site. If you have a preschool age student, they will be off-site, preschool.
Thank you.
So the bottom of page 2, the special education pieces, and then you flip to page 3. It continues with the statutory benefits. The next tier down, you'll see contracted services, tuition, more special education, supplies. Then you get to the next section, which is co-curricular. And this includes your summer programming, any of your co-curricular stipends for athletics, your artist in residence, Whitney Center projects, after-school programming. That's the end of page 3. We'll go to page 4. You'll see these are your guidance services. You'll see your health services. Those are your nurse. And then you'll see some smaller lines for additional services that are needed within the school, including speech, physical therapy, occupational therapy.
Just one question. So under guidance service, the line 2120, is that Vicky? The student support?
Number 16.
The 21, 23, 21, 20, contracted services, student support in the high school,
Yeah,
that would be Vicki Garland's
okay.
family support liaison.
Right, okay.
That's our only line item for her. That's our only line item for her, because we only.
Right now, right, the rest is built into the tuition for the 7th and 8th graders.
Is that on page 4?
Page 4.
Page 4, yeah.
21.
Under guidance, it's 2120, and then if you go to 320, the object code 320, and then the department is 120. It says contracted services, student support, high school.
Thank you.
The other amounts there are for our in-school. We have a $10 guidance counselor in our building.
Are there any other questions on page 4? You go to page 5. You'll see these are improvement in instruction, mentors, staff development, printing, professional books. You'll also see the technology person in that line. The next tier down, you'll see the educational media services, formerly librarian. And then at the bottom of the page, you'll see school board services. If you flip the page to page 6, you'll see the Office of the Superintendent, the SAU office. And you'll see Office of the Principal. And below that, you'll see basically the office, central office at Jackson, central office in Jackson. The administrative office in Jackson, the photocopiers and everything else that goes with that. At the bottom of that page, if there are any questions, feel free. You'll begin the maintenance pieces. So you'll see the personnel that support maintenance, and then you will see the utilities, contracted services, and that includes Whitney Center expenses. Below that, you will see pupil transportation. And again, you'll be hiring for 2 bus drivers. We don't know what their health benefits will be, so that's why there's been an increase there. Flip the page to page 8. You'll see at the top the support for the transportation, including labor, field trips, supplies, fuel, parts. Below that, you have to have health exams for the staff. And you see food service. So you have the budget for food service. And then you'll see at the bottom of that, your trust funds. So those are zeros right now because you don't appropriate those trust fund articles through the operating budget. And you'll see last year, the $3,000 Whitney Trust Fund is in that. That is the total operating budget. You flip to page 9, these are anticipated grants, which make up the total budget. If you flip to page 10, this is a breakdown of your reserve funds, trust funds. You'll see the balances. So your school bus fund is at $109,491. There's a schedule for replacing those buses every 3 years. Current status on your special education fund is $117,000. You have a tuition trust fund, it's $74,000. And a maintenance trust fund, it's $77,000. And you also have the Whitney Maintenance Trust Fund at $45,000. You flip the page, we go to the revenue page. So we have an estimate for the unencumbered balance, as Pete so graciously brought up earlier. If he wants to know where we're at, that is an estimate of $47,000. I think it's important to recognize that last year, 18-19, you had a significant unencumbered balance. This year it's much closer. In that $25,000 that was retained in July of last year for emergency purposes counts as revenue this year. You'll see the kindergarten aid, or kindergarten, if you will. The state reimburses for every kindergarten student $1,100, or theoretically $1,100. Yes.
That's so cute.
Yes, so I'm just wondering, the big jump, is that because that many more Keno places are in action?
No, that's because you have more kindergarten students anticipated.
Oh. Got it.
You can tell Peter not to go out. Spend his wages on
Yeah.
You'll see revenue from federal sources. These are your grants. So you'll see some of those pieces. National Forest Funds, Medicaid reimbursement. And then you'll see other resources where the district receives some revenue. Summer school, after school program fees, rental, your free and reduced lunch reimbursements are in there. And then you'll see the adequacy grant, the New Hampshire education tax, and again, that's in escrow right now. And then your district assessment. So you'll see the district assessment, even though your budget is, because of that lack of revenue, is up a little bit. Which, we flip to the next page, is the tax rate page. So you will see that the tax rate for the operating budget is $6.56, or a 67-cent increase, 11.44%. And then you'll see the warrant articles down below that are proposed. We'll go through those in a minute. And if all of those are approved, you'll see it's an 86-cent per thousand increase to the tax rate. That is the operating budget.
Does anyone have questions? We go through the other warrant articles. Do we want to go back? Anyone has any questions or comments about the operating budget? We can go back to that as well. Dick?
I need money for the shingling the roof so we can put solar panels up there.
We had that discussion at the last meeting, bounced it around quite a bit, and the decision at that point in time was that it was too premature for us to go ahead to offer a warrant article for this year. And our, we did have a lot of time to discuss it, but we actually got into it pretty well. But the overall consensus at that point was we were concerned about the outlay of any future tax rates, and having that kind of stifle anything else in any given year. So we wanted to kind of have a better plan for our future, a strategic plan for how we're going to be spending money. As we proposed preschool, how that hits us. And if we got hit 6 years into it with a large number, that we weren't sure how that fit into the budget. And because we wanted to think about more things, okay, if we have a big hit 6 years from now, we want to bond it, we want to continue for at least for long. We just had too many questions that we kind of had to answer in terms of what's it going to do to any given year tax rate. And because we couldn't really figure that out in one meeting, we decided it's too premature to offer for this year. And we did recognize that we talked quite a bit about that 30% versus 27 or 26% subsidy. And that was a big factor in continuing to talk about it, but we just thought it was too premature to offer this year.
No, I appreciate your time into it because it will take quite a bit of time. I'm still going through it over at the town office. So it's just, I just want to keep the thought in the forefront.
But we do want to continue the discussion with it. Everyone is in favor of the idea for the most part. I think everyone is in favor of the idea. It's just a matter of, I think that we'd like to figure out how to ensure that there is no impact to the tax rate at all.
Okay.
And if there's a way to do that, I think that it would be easier for us to move along with it. And because we couldn't really even understand that versus something in between, no impact to the tax rate versus what is the impact to the tax rate in such a short time period, we decided to consider it again, kind of through a normal process of how our time allows. So we're definitely going to continue the discussion for sure.
Well, you'll have some more information if we get to do it at the highway department and the town office.
Jerry, can I just jump in for 1 second?
Sir?
So, I'm not sure if you were here at the beginning of the meeting, or last meeting, but I just want to reiterate that my personal opinion is that this is an excellent point that goes to sort of a need that some of us have seen for us to work more in more union with, like the selectmen and other boards, to kind of look at the big picture, because it would really be helpful to know. We ended up getting that solar panel discussion, just right at our last meeting. But if you guys have been thinking about it, it would have been, if there's a way for us in the future to work better together about things like that. And I know Jerry and I met with Bob to talk about the possibility that maybe we could do some joint planning for the town and spaces and things like that, so that we can kind of look at the issues we're dealing with and work better with you guys. So I just want to make that pitch once again, that hopefully we can work with you guys to
Absolutely.
see what town priorities were and how can we work together.
And the proposal may go ahead for the highway department and the town office because we're in separate billing categories, so, but the discussion should go on and on. I mean, it is a good idea, and I think will end up being a savings in your outlay for energy.
Yeah, and I think, at least my takeaway from the last meeting was that it's something we want to look into. I mean, it would be great to learn from you guys since you've already gone this far. So, hopefully we can keep talking.
We'll be talking.
Maybe one more question that you mentioned, maybe this isn't the time of the budget hearing, but I didn't think we had to replace the shingles. Could we replace the shingles?
We would.
You know, that's something we would have to determine, but you know, the company that the town's considering anyway, they recommend that you do. In talking to Stokie about it, he was pretty confident that we wouldn't have to. But that's for further discussion down the line.
Yeah, I wasn't sure something changed.
But you know, to Jeff's point about working in unison with the selectmen, I think that's something that benefits both of us for lots of different reasons. The solar panel one was on the radar for a while. It's just, I don't think we recognize, I don't even know if you recognize that subsidy, 30% down to 26% from 2019 to 2020 wasn't something that was on our radar anyway. Had we known that, maybe we would have been on the ball a little bit more back in last March or something, but that was the kind of thing that I saw anyway.
That could go back up again in
Which
years. We don't know.
Yeah.
That's the problem. It goes up and down. But we'll keep pressing ahead.
Thanks, Dave. Any other questions on the operating budget itself? Like I said, once we go through all the warrant articles, we'll go back and we'll make motions to recommend these, each one individually. And I think we'll do that after we do articles 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we'll go back to Article 1. So there aren't any more questions about the operating budget. Don't hesitate to ask. We'll move into Article 2. To see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $3,000 to be added to the Whitney Maintenance Trust Fund, previously established for this purpose in 2010. This is, again, it's a placeholder article. Ideally, that $3,000 comes out of revenue from the Whitney Trust Fund. I think historically it's been pretty well met at that number, and above it. That's a portion of it anyway. There's a lot about the contract language. Any questions about Article 2? Article 3, to see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 to be added to the expendable general trust fund, school building maintenance fund established for that purpose in 1996. Any questions? Article 3. Article 4 is to see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $95,000 to purchase a school bus and authorize the withdrawal of $60,000 from the capital reserve fund. School buses previously established for this purpose. The balance of the $35,000 is to come from general taxation. Any questions there? And if you miss something, don't hesitate to ask me to go back. Article 5, to see the school district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $25,000 to be added to the capital reserve fund, special education, previously established for this purpose. This is one where we had originally ideally capped it at $100,000. It was actually up to $110,000 at one point before we actually capped it, and that was 10 years ago. And it's been continually recommended to us that we're low in that capital reserve. So we are adding a little bit more to this than we have in previous years, hoping to grow that fund. It's the potential for special education costs to be in the $200,000 to $250,000 range is real. So we're hoping to build that fund up to be more realistic for what we might need it to be someday. So that's why there's a little bit more money in that fund than it's been previously there. Any questions there? Article 6, to see if the school district will vote to approve the 3-year tuition contract with the Bartlett School District for the Jackson 7th and 8th grade students to attend the Josiah Bartlett Elementary School. And this is the article that Kevin was mentioning earlier. This is separate from the high school contract. This is it's a 3-year contract that we have with Bartlett. And the contract language says that the second year into, we look to extend it for 3 more years beyond that contract. So as Kevin mentioned earlier, this will be approving the contract for the years 2020, 2022, and 2023. Any questions on that, Emily?
Is there the option to add 6th graders?
Yeah.
There always is. Doesn't seem like you guys are always,
There is language in there that says it can be reopened to negotiate
that.
in 6th grade.
With them, but in the contract, but does this, because the town's voting just for 7th and 8th graders, mean we have to come back to a new warrant article if we decide we want to send 6th graders?
If we wanted them to be part of that contract, we would have to amend the contract, and then we would have to bring that contract back for a 3-year approval to the voters of Jackson. And I would say, so, we're not required to have contracts really for any of it per se. And at this point in time, Bartlett has been very open and welcoming to the idea of Jackson sending its 6th graders to Bartlett. The downside for Jackson is that, well, actually, in my opinion, but over the past couple of years, we've been asking Bartlett to consider, well, if we were to send 6th graders, would you ever consider lowering the tuition rate for 6th graders that, under what we pay for 7th and 8th graders? And we've asked a couple times, and the answer has continued to be a solid no. So the tuition rate that we'd be paying for 6th graders would also be the rate that we pay for our 7th and 8th graders, which is established by their cost per student, which right now I believe is at $23,600 or right around that number. And so that's what the contract language says, is that we pay per student. It's based on the number of students that we actually send, so we're not required to have a minimum number. It's not based on equalized evaluation at all. It's based on how many kids we actually send to the school, and it's based on what Bartlett pays their cost per student. And so in terms of 6th graders, I said we would pay the same for our 6th graders that we do for our 7th and 8th graders. If we wanted to ever open that up, that conversation in any given year, they would, at this point in time, they would welcome our 6th graders, so we wouldn't actually have to get them into a 3-year contract, per se. It's always an option at this point, until they say otherwise anyway.
Yeah, so that's what I was asking. So because we're voting specifically 7th and 8th, that doesn't tie our hands if that ever came up?
It doesn't tie our hands, because at this point, Bartlett they're open to the idea of us sending our 6th graders there. If we want to do that, it would be on a year-to-year basis at this point, until we got the contract language to clarify. Any questions on that? And then we go back, should we make motions at this point to?
Close that hearing. If there are no more questions,
And then we do
and
that.
then you can make a motion to reconsider if you need to. You've already voted once.
If we want to get over 5-0.
Right, it might make sense
We
to
get it back to a 5.
reconsider to get a full board vote.
But it's good, because it'll help me in it. I thought we were supposed to technically do that after the public.
We did that last meeting, right?
yeah.
We did that last meeting.
Yeah.
And you can always reconsider.
Yeah.
So if you want to.
This just shows your level of support of the board for these articles for the general public.
So they know.
If they're a dissenting vote, they can say, okay, you voted 3-1, can I hear why the board member voted in the minority there? It's just helpful for the general public.
So I guess I would go back. Are there any more questions, comments? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. That brings us back to us. So, yeah, we'll go back through and actually, if, unless we're all comfortable in our original vote, get UCE voting differently on any particular article. So I guess I would entertain a motion to recommend Articles 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, or 6 anyway. To
Do like a 5-5 though.
All those in favor of recommending Articles
So,
1 through 6?
I think the motion, anybody got a motion?
Motion. We're all motion.
Pick one.
Is there any more discussion on that? All those in favor? Okay, that's unanimous.
So all those will change to that. Okay.
Can I just clarify something? We can make a motion to move something forward, but we don't have to recommend it, right? They're two separate things.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to get that clear.
You want to go back to your vote?
No, it's close.
Anything else?
Before we leave, I need board member signatures on these forms.
You have to say it now, maybe you have to.